Hi, everyone. This is Norman Kochnick. We're on time with Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. You can see my hat. We've watched an amazing game today. We really have. It's been quite incredible. Why was it incredible? Because yet again, a team has had a form of implosion occur in their performance. I've already had a big discussion, but I'm going to repeat myself on this program about my thoughts about the match. I was very damning about certain aspects because Sunrise Hyderabad should be better positioned than they are. They should have had certain selections in their team, such as the lack of a Jason Holder. I would argue that Kane Williamson, albeit he's not 100% fit, he looked completely uniformed on the side of the ground. He was moving around quite normally. I reckon we could have seen him play. Maybe they opted another week off, which another game off, which not a week, but a game off. I grant that. That's a fair point. But I think that we're going to see some changes to the Sunrise Hyderabad team. Yet again, they made 4 changes today. And at the toss, Dave Warner, in his wisdom, made it very clear that he doesn't need to tell you who the 4 players are. Go look at the team sheet. And that set the tone of the whole match. I'm pretty sure Trevor Bayliss, Moody, and VVS Luxman would not have been impressed with that. And I'd be absolutely shocked if all 3 of them, if not one of all 3 of them, has had a word to Dave Warner about that, because that's not on. Who's the owner of Sunrise Hyderabad? Is there a person?
I think he's from England. I think the owner is from England. I think he has a stake at Surrey as well. So Jacob, some I don't remember his name, but definitely he's from England. The owner is not an
Sorry,
Indian.
I haven't actually introduced Tabasha Sen yet, because I almost feel like he's a part of the furniture here, and he doesn't need introduction. Tabasha Sen, you all know him from Extra Time. His platform is amazing. You know, I've got hats from Extra Time sitting here as well. You can see I've got my hat going on. I'm sometimes confused what hat I'm wearing, but the reality is that we have incredible connections with some great people. I'm very impressed with what happens on both channels. There are other channels as well that I'm involved with, but I don't think there's any better than Extra Time. Extra Time are magnificent. And you should be subscribing to Extra Time if you haven't already. Clearly, you subscribe to me, or at least I hope if you're viewing this program that you're actually subscribed. Why? Because it gives me a better indication of how I sit with my viewers. It's great to know who they are likely to be engaged and have regular involvement, and therefore hit the notification bell as well, so you're aware of these sessions starting a bit earlier, a bit later than normal. I know it's late in India. It certainly is late here in Australia, but I think today was worthy of extra comment. There's been a lot of... I was quite blunt on Extra Time. Did you like that, Tabasha? Did you like those facts that I brought up?
Absolutely, I liked it because you hit the nail on his head. Because David Warner means the attitude, the arrogance that is showed today means that is totally uncalled for. Means the IPL matches are being viewed by so many people all across the globe, and you send a bad predicament to everyone. Means obviously the people watching, the kids watching, some of them are you are role models for the youngsters. And what do they learn from you? Means you are the captain of the side, leading from the front. So that means, and also it is disrespectful towards your teammates. If you don't remember the names of your teammates, that to me is disrespectful, which shouldn't be the case, as is the case with David Warner today, what he did at the toss.
Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely and utterly unacceptable. The man has been given a second and third chance in life, if not a fourth or fifth chance. He blew it with trying to create a fight in South Africa. Then he went about the sandpaper gate on his own. He dragged the whole team down. The entire Australian bowling unit from Hazelwood, I know factually that Hazelwood, Lyon, Stark, and Cummins were absolutely livid with Warner then, and they were not talking to him, and it's taken a lot of time to get that back together. The man, in my opinion, after what I've seen today, his captaincy should be stripped. If I was Trevor Bayliss, I'd say, mate, you're sitting out the rest of the tournament from captaincy, and quite frankly, you're borderline not selecting. I think it was Siddharth who talked about the selection of players. They went with Bairstow, Holder, who was it? Rashid Khan, and who was the fourth person? Williamson.
Williamson.
Those four should be in the side. Honestly, they would create a great balance. Even though Warner's a great batter, I'm not knocking that. If he's going to be in the side with that attitude, how many millions of dollars is he getting paid? He loves putting his TikTok and his Instagram out there, which infuriates me with his absolute facade. It's all about money for him, and he's showing it yet again. It's a two-faced attitude. I'm disgusted with it. I'm actually really livid. And on my platform, I'm going to give it my full crack. I'm disgusted in what he did today. I was offended, and I wasn't even in India or playing for the team. The level of offence must be through the roof. Trevor Bayliss is sitting there with Moody trying to work out the best way of handling this with Vivius Luxman. And unless their owner is very, very strong and has an absolute love of Warner, then something has to be done. I don't care if he's won a IPL championship. I don't care. That's great. But what he did today has probably damaged the entire season for Sunrise Hyderabad. I'll go as far as to say that.
I got a little bit wrong, Norman, because I think Rajasthan Royals team owner is from England. And because Rajasthan Royals have a stake in the Surrey. That guy is also associated with Surrey. But I think that Sunrisers Hyderabad are totally owned by Indians.
Okay, well, they wouldn't be putting up with that. They would
Yeah,
not be putting up with it. And if I was a sponsor of the team, because I'm sure you and I are not the only ones talking about this. I'm sure it's a topic for discussion across the board. I'd be shocked if that's not the case. I know Burry Majunda has a great friendship with Dave Warner and Kunal Sharma from Spartan, who sponsors his bat. They're all pretty tolerant fellows, but I'm afraid what he's done today was beyond me. It is that. I think it is that significant. It's not. It's no big deal. It's a huge deal.
Maybe Norman, he's not in a good frame of mind. Firstly, obviously, with his groin injury, that might be going in through his mind, and secondly, maybe the buyer bubble thing, because he is not accompanied by his wife. I think Candice is not in India, if I'm not wrong. I think she's in Sydney with the kids, with the three kids. So that might be might have an effect on Warner's state of mind, because I think he's not the Warner that we all used to, because smiling and pepping on the teammates and cheering. Because as you rightly pointed out on extra times platform, is that it was a very, very good observation, Norman, from your side, was to see Johnny Bairstow and Kane Williamson having a chat with each other and not sitting at the dugout.
A
So that's
long chat, and they had very serious faces on them. Kane Williamson is a very, very astute man. He would not be putting up with this. He would be internally fuming. And Bairstow wouldn't be happy as well. Look, Warner's batting, we can't knock. It's a great batting performance. But again, he didn't bat to the end. He keeps getting out around that 30-40 mark, which is a sign of a person not concentrated. So,
but I would say it was a brilliance from Hardik Pandya that brought the downfall of Warner, because it was totally a brilliant piece of field from Hardik Pandya, because Warner was looking very good today. Unfortunately, that Hardik Pandya brilliance led to his downfall.
yeah, okay, I agree. Hardik Pandya is an amazing player. Pity he's not fully fit either. You look at the players who got injured. Ben Stokes, we know, has got his injury. Jadeja's come back from an injury. Sharma's come back from an injury. Jofra Archer, I very, very much doubt that Jofra Archer will play a game in this IPL. If he's smart, he won't, because he's not recovered properly yet, clearly. And obviously now the likes of the groin injury to Warner. People, look, cricketers play cricket 24/7 for 365 days of a year if they want to. There's so many IPLs, PSLs, whatever L, running around the world. You can play 24/7, 7 days a week. I think Jeff Thompson always sums it up well, even though Jeff's got a titanium kneecap these days. He said it beautifully. He says, you know what? I didn't have to play cricket in my winter season. I went and played golf and played with friends and did other things. He went and played AFL in Australia. what I'm getting at is that I think players need a more distinct break. And I'm now realizing with the combination of so many matches, with the whole bubble scenario, I'm beginning to actually understand why players are going off and resting. And you know who I commend highly? There are two people, quite a few actually, but two in particular. Stark and Hazelwood have both opted out to put their feet up and relax. And that's probably the most sensible thing they're going to do, because they're going to have a big World Cup campaign and an Ashes series. IPL is all about money. It's a great tournament, but it is about money. And those guys have realised that it's worthy of them having a break. I would argue that Dave Warner is showing signs of needing a break, a proper break, and probably would have been better off sitting out, but he wouldn't do that. Anyway, Milan's from Austria. He joins us. SRH have gifted too many wickets to opposition, beginning with Bairstow's shocking dismissal and 2 run-outs inflicted by Pandya. SRH's middle order is crumbling big time under big pressure, lack of experience. Well, yeah, I would agree with that totally. It's well said. The 2 runners, Kunal Nagadi says it's been Kane should be the captain. Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. I wish if I would have a higher opinion of David Warner if he bowed out of captaincy for a while. If he said, hey guys, I need a break from captaincy, I would take my hat off to Warner if he does that, as opposed to being forced not to be captain. Okay? Feeling sad for Dave Warner, I'm not. I think Kane Williamson should be captain for that side anyway because he is more experienced. Agree. Dave Warner's only a good batsman in that team. I agree. Hello, official side. Look, I don't think it's just me being dominant in my conversation here, Debashis. If I'm this vocal, I'm sure other platforms will be equally as vocal, or at least privately be. We need to be open about this. I'm actually trying to help rather than to be just destructive. I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm trying to help out. If I see someone crying out for help, someone needs to stand up. The whole world heard David Warner say what he said at the toss. The whole world. Walking off that field, even the umpires would have had thoughts about saying something. Honestly, it's disrespectful. Who was the commentator who he was speaking to? Do you know who the person was he was speaking to? I've forgotten. The commentator.
Padamjit Sherawat yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that been someone else, it may have been dealt with right there. But what a poor performance by SH. Yes, Hardik Palmer. That's it's. You can't say it was horrible because they did get Mumbai Indians out for 150. Okay, that was a pretty good effort, to be honest with you. Again, Rohit Sharma, not unlike Dave Warner, is getting good starts. They're getting out. I know that I think Devishik actually talked about it previously with us, Tabashis, that they're going to have a good balance to the side, have good lower batsmen. I agree with all that, but you won't need them if you bat your top 3 and bat through the innings. You won't need them.
I think Siddharth made a good point of having these 4 foreigners in the side in that SRH side, with likes of Kane Williamson, David Warner, Jason Holder, and obviously you cannot rule out Johnny Bairstow, obviously. So I think either Johnny Bairstow or David Warner, because Kane Williamson, I think I think Sunrisers management would would be good to make him the captain if in the next 3-4 matches if result doesn't go your way, as was the case with KKR last season, stripping off the captaincy of Dinesh Karthik and handed it over to Owen Morgan. So that wouldn't be a bad idea from SRH management, and the fact that that middle order looks very inexperienced. I think if Kane Williamson comes into that side, it will only add to the balance of the side, and also get in more experience, because you need experience in that middle order, because the guys like Virat Singh or Abhishek Sharma or Abdul Samad, these are all inexperienced guys, and you need someone. Obviously, there was Manish Pandey in that side, but he is not doing justice to his potentiality, and that has been the case for quite some time now. So I think Uh, and when you have someone like I keep telling also on extra time also I did say mention that why don't you pick someone like Kedar Jadhav in that side, because you have some,
Yep.
because you can play seven Indians, and Kedar Jadhav has represented the country for quite a long time. So why don't you have Kedar Jadhav in that side instead of a Virat Singh or a Abhishek Sharma? Abdul Samad, I would still stick to Abdul Samad because he has that
He's got the goods.
he got the goods. So I definitely want some experience in that batting in that middle order.
Yeah, look, when you have three team captains in the one team, three national team captains. Holder has been captain for the West Indies for some time. He may not be in all formats now, but he certainly was captain, and a very good captain too. Kane Williamson, an excellent captain. If I were to, if someone would ask me, out of those three captains, who is my top? What would the order of best captaincy be of that team?
Ken
I would
Williamson,
go Williamson, followed by Holder.
Holder.
Then I would only say Warner because he's a captain now. Dave Warner is not captaining anywhere. Okay, SRH won back when they did. Warner was very much responsible for that. He's batting. He scored big scores in that tournament. He led by the charge, led by example. But he's lost all of his credibility after today. What he said, after what he has been through with Australia and all the stuff that's gone on, and we've allowed him to come back into the Australian team the way we have, and here he is doing something, I think, almost equally as bad because of the disgrace he brought to his role, the disgrace to the four players that were selected, the disgrace to the way that his team would be portrayed. He doesn't deserve another strike. I would be not having him as captain. They may give him another chance, maybe, but I don't know whether he deserves it. Okay, must he be? Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think somewhere around the corner, I think he must be pissed off with the team selection. I do believe that captains have a say in picking the 11, but I think I think in that dressing room there are some different of opinions as far as the playing 11 is concerned. I definitely, because Norman not disclosing the names of his four teammates only goes to prove that he was n- not in a good frame of mind. Obviously, it was.
Okay. He might be upset with the team selections. He might be. The reality is, Trevor Bayliss does not suffer fools. He does not suffer fools. Trevor Bayliss says very little, but when you tick Trevor Bayliss off, it takes a lot, and it's with facts that he reacts. And he probably has. I think you're right. I'm very sure you're right. But I don't know who's to blame for the selections. I don't know. But it may be that Williamson and Warner are not getting along. We just don't know. We don't know enough about it. If Williamson was 80% fit or better today, I would have taken him on. I think if we're all saying it's too early, but this attitude it won't change unless something's done. And that comes down to somebody taking hold of the selections. I never thought I'd be this damning of Sunrise Hyderabad. I'm not wanting to be damning of the team. There's a lot of great players in that team. Bairstow, fantastic. Williamson, fantastic. I mean, Samat, the young guy, is great. Bhuvi, what a great player. Rashid Khan.
Natarajan.
Exactly.
Natarajan.
Now, Natarajan, he could have been a very significant part of today's match. I think, I'm not going to blame selections at this point in time. Why? Because Warner had his team in front of him and he should have made the best of it. Okay? And it doesn't start very well. If he said that in retaliation of the selector's mistake, not good enough. If he made it because he's upset with him generally himself, not good enough. You don't air your platform on such a big stage. Everybody watches the toss. Everybody, with bated breath, waits for the team to be selected. Everybody wants to know.
And immediately you have that toss video on Twitter, on the social media platforms, on Twitter and Instagram. So that's not a good example to set.
it's if I was in charge of that team, I'd be saying, Warner, take a break from captaincy. I'm sorry. I don't
It
care
would
how
be
much he's been.
interesting. It would be interesting to see the reports tomorrow. The Indian media reports tomorrow. Uh, I would love to see them highlighting the Warner's attitude. Let's see.
I'm actually going to do my newspaper clip tomorrow. It's giving me a great reason to, because I want to see what the Australian papers are going to say about it, because it'll get back to them, no doubt. Are they going to have the guts to have a go at Warner? They should. He's in jeopardy now all round. I'm sorry. This is not a lightweight comment. This is not, oh, we're making a big deal out of this. This is nothing. No, no, no. What he said is reflected on the whole way they played the match today. Honestly.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely, Norman.
we actually commented that we thought that maybe Warner might come out angrily and get a big score. Well, he didn't. So, that's another bite. Okay. Barrett, I think Williamson is one of the best gentlemen in the game I've ever seen. I always remember his smiling face after losing the 19 World Cup. That says it all. That is a brilliant comment. That is on point. On point. Are we underplaying the fact why Williamson was brought into the squad in the first place? Do you think team management had this in their head already? Do you think Warner's being very, very much looking over his shoulder?
Obviously, the fact is that Williamson was made the captain because Warner had to be, because with that after the sandpaper grade, he missed out the IPL. That was the reason Williamson was brought into this captaincy role. So maybe the franchisee thought once he was available, then they gave it back to Warner to lead the side. But and having said that, obviously Warner has had the success in Sunrisers Hyderabad team. Obviously, being in the playoffs for 5 consecutive seasons, that speaks a lot, obviously, and winning the championship once as well, and being into the finals once as well. So I think Warner has done good over the years for Sunrisers Hyderabad, but obviously as you say, is we shouldn't dwell on the past glory, because we need to look at the present, what lies ahead. And I think today what Warner did sets a very, very bad example as a captain, which he shouldn't do.
Yep. And MS Dhoni is an example of somebody who I would never hear him say other such words. Admittedly, we're actually talking about MS Dhoni having played too long. Maybe he needs to retire. But you know what? MS Dhoni would never say what Warner said. Would never say that. Never. In his entire career, he would not say that. Okay? So the reality is, and MS Dhoni's been a fantastic IPL player, 200 matches now, 199 as captain. The reality is that we're not, his future we're considered to be doubtful. He may retire. And that's out of respect, but we also look forward. With Warner, we have to look forward. I'm not going to have it that, oh, he won that year. Yes, he did. That was brilliant. That's why he's been given the captaincy in the first place. But you don't get away with that. A warning has to be issued. And if Warner was clever, he would apologise. If Warner was clever and not be crying and bring his wife into it, he should be set up as a man and be admitting to a very false, and actually apologise openly to the 4 players that were selected. Because if I were them, I'd be offended. I'm sorry. Okay. SRH have wasted time and money on Manish Pandey and Vijay Shankar. Now, this is interesting. I don't know them well enough as players to say that they deserve that comment, but it could be the team dynamics. They may be uncertain what their roles really are. It may be something like that. Manish Pandey, when does he normally bat? He doesn't bat first drop, does he?
Yeah, he normally bats first drop for
Does he?
Karnataka. Yeah.
Okay, he does bat first drop. When he was
And
selected for India, where did he play there?
he was batting at the middle order.
Okay,
I
all right.
think for 5 or 6.
Could he bat 5 or 6 for this team?
I think it will be a West, because if for a format like T20, You need power hitters towards the end. Means your 5 or 6 should be the batsmen who can give you, who can hit long boundaries. So I think Abdul Samad fits that role in the Sunrisers Hyderabad team, and maybe if you look at Sunrise, I really don't understand. But if Manish Pandey is playing, he should definitely walk in at number 3. But I think he is wasting his opportunity. He's wasting his opportunity.
Yeah, okay, but there's a dynamic problem, or there's a balance problem with SRH that needs to be addressed. I can't
Tariq,
pinpoint
Tariq,
those two
Tariq,
players.
Tariq Banker has just mentioned that SRH is owned by Sun TV Group. Sun TV Group. I think it's a channel from down south.
Okay, hence the name Sunrisers Hyderabad. That makes it.
I'm
Is
not
that
too.
why the
I'm
name?
not. I'm not too sure about that, but definitely,
Actually,
I don't know.
we were talking the other day about where the name Sunrisers come from.
Sunrisers
If you,
come from, right? Yeah,
if you have a company that owns you that called the Sun Group, I think you've got a pretty strong case that you probably have an example of where that name came from.
right, right, right.
It makes too much sense, doesn't it? Garrett Bunker, he's asking me what. Hang on, that's not coming out. He's asking what did Warner. Okay, that's good. That's there. And that's the message above that. What did Warner do? Just in case we don't know, Dave Warner at the toss. In fact, the Bastards, you better explain it. I might be more too emotive. Can you explain what
Yeah.
took place at the toss?
Obviously, at the toss, Norman, as usual, the captains were is asked about the playing 11, which Norman was asked, but then he was so arrogant is that he just forgot to name the teams. Because Sunrisers today made as many as 4 changes, but David Warner, he said there are only 4 changes, and it's there in the team list, which is totally uncalled for. Being a captain of the side, you should name the teammates. Who are the changes? Who are the 4 players that have been included in the side? And that is total disrespect for me, because to forget the names of the teammates who have been included in the side, because um, this is showing disrespect towards your teammates, which I feel.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I can't even use the word forgotten the names. I actually don't think that's the case. He said that's in the team sheet. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. You know your players who are in your team. He didn't just meet them this morning. They're players, he would know them. He would have met them. He would have spent a lot of time with them over the last few weeks. It's horrifically disrespectful. And I actually think he did it for the purposes of being arrogant rather than just forgetting their names. It's got so many layers of problem with that. It's not funny. It's arrogance. It's disrespect. It's a whole bunch of things. It really is a disgrace. Aparasani's been studying very hard, guys. She's got massive exams. At this time of the morning, she needs to sleep. So I'm not apologising for her, because she's a great girl. She's been with me since November. So I need to be fair to her overall career, which involves studies. So please, guys, be wary that they're coming here in their own time, and we should be respectful of that. I don't mean to be nasty. If you want a partner on, we're going to try and get her on when she's available. Pretty Upala, we only spoke to her a short while ago. She's also burning the candle at both ends. She's going to be there for the double header tomorrow, we hope. Chris Vernon's the same. David Graveney had a farmer matter. These people are my regulars, and we're very grateful they've got the Bastards here, guys. So I apologise for not having all our hosts on there. It's not through lack of effort, I can assure you. We're on every single day, and it's a very difficult format. Not many producers are on every, or commentators and journalists are on every day. It's very hard. Is there a rift between Warner and SRH management? If there isn't one, I don't think it's a rift between management, but I'll tell you what, management need to act on it today, because in defence of Dave Warner, if he's under a lot of stress for a lot of reasons, then the management should have been aware of that and should be dealing with it. Okay? They should have perhaps discussed this earlier with him and not allowed it to percolate. So, yes, management have got some responsibility here. They certainly do now, and they're going to have to act. Okay. All right. we've got Mr. Techwiz. This is a big question that I have. SRH have so many good batsmen, no doubt. Bairstow, Warner, Pandya, Samad, etc. Why are they struggling to hit runs? What department should they be improving on? They need to bat long. They need to be more selective with the shots. In fact, I would argue, put the strike rate to one side for one moment, because scores of 150 in 20 overs is awful. If you bat well, if you bat to 12, 14 overs without losing a wicket, you can afford to go crazy, can't you? I'd much prefer a batting side to be a little bit of a low total at the midpoint, but come home strong if they're going to have that happen. What's your thoughts?
And the entire thing revolves around, as you have always maintained, you always maintained, that it's your top three. It's your top three that needs to bat deep. That's need to bat deep if you are to make a good score. In this case, obviously, both Warner and Bairstow has given the Sunrisers a great start, but then either of them needed to stay till the end, maybe 15th over, because the total was not that stiff. If you say, obviously 150 on this day, even if in considering that the Chennai strip is very slow, the ball is not coming onto the bat. It's very difficult for the stroke makers. But having said that, Bairstow had a great start. Obviously, in Sunrisers, I think if they were some 62, if I'm not wrong, from 7 overs, so they were way above the asking rate. So all they needed to do is to play just responsibly and just take the team home. But I think that moment of brilliance from Hardik Pandya, and the unfortunate dismissal of Bairstow getting out hit wicket. So I think uh, again it boils down to the fact that Sunrisers Hyderabad are totally at loss when it comes to their middle order, because they need the experience in that middle order. I'm saying time and again, you need experience in the middle order if you have to bounce back in the tournament. And who better than Kane Williamson to walk into that side, because he can lend solidity, he can lend balance, and he can anchor the innings. So I definitely, for one, would love to see Kane Williamson getting into that playing 11 for Sunrisers Hyderabad. And the earlier he is in that side, the better for the Orange Army.
As we said before, the separate side conversation at length between Bairstow and Kane Williamson, away from the playing group. If that's not a huge message, I don't know what is. Don't you think, Debashis? Now, we're getting a question from Sanjay Chambers. Where is Debashis from? Debashis is actually from Kolkata, from the platform of Extra Time, and he's been a magnificent component of the system. So has David Graveney.
There you go.
Hello, sir.
Debashis, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. I'm fine. Great to see you.
Yeah,
we were hoping that, I think Norman was expecting you.
He was, but he expects me every single day, Debashis. He forgets I've got a family.
I know.
In fact, David, you made it pretty clear you couldn't make today, so I'm cock a hoop that you're here. And can I digress, man? I've watched Elton John's Candle Win about 95 times now, and I've enjoyed not Elton John playing his music, but seeing David Graveney sitting there. And you looked resplendent. We had side profiles of you. You looked a very hip young gentleman back then. You do now well, of course. That was very impressive. I mean, on a community part of my channel, I actually forwarded that video onto that and mentioned your name. I've also put it on Facebook. I think you may have we might have to get you a piano. We may have to get you to sing Candle in the Wind for us.
Well, when I rest my computer, I rest it with this book.
Oh, wow. Wow. What a wonderful woman she was.
She's an extraordinary woman.
If only she was alive today, I would give her the captaincy of Sunrisers Hyderabad. That's what I would do.
It seems to be a bit not in disarray, but that seems to be a sort of not that I saw any of it, because I was watching. I went to watch an under-18 game down at Hampshire, their nursery ground, Debashis, which is side by side to the Aegeus Bowl, where the
Okay.
final will be played. It was a slight worry when Abbas, the new overseas player, took a hat trick yesterday. He had the analysis of 5 for 6 at one point, so I hope the wicket where they play the final might be a bit better than that. But in England, if you're assessing the wicket, you look upwards rather than down, so the overhead conditions do make a bit of a difference. However, I was watching an under-18 game between Hampshire and Surrey, which was Adam Holyoke's old team. At the same time as Pope was scoring 250 for Surrey, there's a young man in a 50-over game, which I've never seen before, scored 238 off his own bat. So they got 390. This guy hit 18 fours and 13 sixes. And actually, Surrey, to their credit, didn't give up in the field, which is really good. And they only lost by they were 330 for 5 in the end. So it was a good game by some good young players. But the guy who got 230 was an elite, also an elite hockey player to basis. So reverse. It's not a reverse sweep. It's actually a reverse hit. So they hit it sort of like over cover, way over in 6 and whatever. So it was just shows the way the game's going, I'm afraid.
Yeah, sometimes the missing also stays. It goes a long way.
Yeah. So, but I would have to say, prior to that, they all played conventional shots, hitting it down the ground, which is always good to see. So looking at the scorecard before I came on, it looks as if, and I don't think that's the first time that Johnny Bairstow has trodden on his wickets or hit his wickets.
That's true.
Did he not do that in the Test match?
He did.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Now,
so
David,
there's one thing about going deep in the crease, but you can go too deep in the crease. You don't know where you're standing. So
yeah, it's I'm not going to knock Bairstow for that, but he needs to address it. Obviously, he shouldn't be getting out in such a manner. It's his own fault.
Yeah. Once would be unfortunate. Twice would be irresponsible, really. So
I love the choice of the word irresponsible. David, I'm not sure whether you're aware. Did you see what happened with David Warner at the toss?
No.
Okay. David Warner.
So he lost the toss.
He lost the toss. That was part of it. But he was normally when a captain is out there after a toss, they normally say who's in and out of the team, etc., don't they? Have you ever heard of a captain say, I'll actually pull up exactly what he said. Give me a second. I'll try and find it. Now, in fact, I won't need to find it. Dave Warner was asked a question, as you normally are, about, what's your take? What's going on? He said, certain things about the performance state of the pitch, etc. Then he said, we've made 4 changes to the team. Just go and check the team sheet to find out who they were.
Right.
He said,
but I'd have to say, actually, the modern game, you normally come out to the middle with a team sheet because you have to actually give it to the umpires. So,
but I want to know, as a selector or as a coach or a member of the team, especially one of those 4 players that were selected, if you hear your captain say, there's been 4 changes, just go and check the team sheet, how would you react to that? Would you make comment to that player post-game or during the game?
Well, if the player heard it, you can either draw the conclusion he was so disappointed about losing the toss. Again, without seeing the wicket, did it spin a lot as the game wore on, or
not really?
Or was it just a slow wicket in order to? It looks as if they the Sunrisers got themselves in a position to win comfortably. It would appear, and then they lost some wickets, and struck me as it might have been a difficult wicket to start an innings, which can often happen if it's a bit slow. But to answer your question, Norman, we're not party to inside the dressing room. but does it smack of him not agreeing with the changes and actually somebody imposing the changes on the team?
Perhaps.
That sounds a bit like that.
But it's unacceptable to be making.
That is what we discussed. That is what we discussed, Norman. Is that maybe he was not happy with the changes because he was forced to make those changes, and he was upset. Maybe that's the reason he just expressed his anger.
But if the players who are affected, who have come into the team, heard that, and again, this is very much secondhand from me, it wouldn't do a lot for their confidence, would it? You know,
no.
And the in terms of and it's not. This is not an insight of England's selection. It's an insight into collective responsibility for decisions. That the selection, and Monty tried to squeeze me when he and I were on. If you remember, he was trying to find out who made the decision between Flintoff and Strauss in the Tour 2006-7. And I know who made that decision, but he isn't going to know, because I think whatever you do as a group of people, whether you agree or not agree, when you leave the room, you're all on the same page. So, you know, David Warner would have had to make sure that he didn't give an indication of, well, we've made the decisions, but I'm not happy with them, because that appears to be what he is giving, that sort of air. But as I said, I haven't seen it. But the one thing I can do is that, having done it for 10 years, however much you don't like the decision, then it's got to be unity in the public domain.
That sums up my answer to what I fully expected you to say, David, and that's where we concur greatly. That's one aspect of it. The fact that there may have been some team selection issues, whatever they may be.
Well, it'd be really boring if everybody agreed, Norman. So you're going to have disagreements, but you've got to stick together as a group.
Absolutely.
And actually, you've got to, on people who are coming into the team, could be young players making their debut, you have to make sure that they feel as if that actually the decision is supported by everyone. The last thing they need to know is, did it not happen with one of the South African players who got selected in Australia, which was a decision made by the Minister of Sport or somebody outside the team, and he was so embarrassed by it that he actually asked to be left out?
Right.
I can't remember who the guy was, but that's when they were having a situation of, with a very delicate political situation. I think it might have been Ashwell Prince, actually. But
South Africa.
Yeah, South African playing Australia.
Yeah, look, but David, I'm very much your way of saying this is brilliant, but I'm more pinpointed on Dave Warner here for a minute. Regardless of team selections, whether we agreed or not agreed, we all agree that he shouldn't have done it on a public platform. But it's more damaging than that. It's insulting to the media to not be told who the 4 players are.
Yeah, so he could have been, the changes could have been forced upon him without actually him having any input at all. There are selection systems that work that actually exclude the captain. It's taken out of his domain. So this is the team. I can remember listening to an interview with Richie Beno, I think when Don Bradman was chairman of selectors. And I think Richie made the point that if you want these guys to play without asking me, you go and captain them. But if you want me to be captain of Australia, then I need to agree to the other 10 players. We'll have a healthy debate. We may agree to differ, but that's a sentiment I've always sort of tried to belong to, that the captain needs to trust the other 10 guys he's walking on the pitch with. And I think to try and force him to do something different has a tendency of backfiring.
And all of what you're saying is perfectly correct, and I respect you greatly for that, David. I'm still centering on the fact that Warner should not have been publicly making that comment. he should have also have had respect for the media to tell us who the hell the 4 players were and out of respect to the 4 players. Regardless of all that, which you've told me, which is perfectly correct, there's several layers of this. Dave Warner's on notice for a lot of things he's done with Sandpaper Gate. And this was an opportunity where he needs to get his act together to not have any negativity about his manner in captaining a side. He's never to captain an Australian side ever again. Sunrise Hyderabad also put him to one side for a season. He would have to have been warned by Sunrise Hyderabad. Obviously, Cricket Australia made that decision. That sort of statement is unacceptable. And his dignity or his level of respect has dropped even another level by that. And what would you, David, if you, not so much only as chairman of selectors, but in a general sense, if you had any influence on the team, or would you have a chat to David Warner about what he said publicly?
Yeah, you probably would do, but I think it's I think you need to have an understanding of how the team is selected, Norman. Because unless you understand that, you can't really sort of be critical of people when you don't know the full facts.
I grant that. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, so I think that, and I would have to say, I've always loved the way that he plays his cricket from the word from the first time he came in. But he is a very emotional cricketer, and I think when you're captain, you've got to try and control those emotions, however much they come to the fore, because people, well, 3 of us are talking about it and could all have slightly different views. And I'm sure a lot of people will debate that in India over the next couple of days, particularly in Hyderabad, about sort of, how they view the comments. So it'll get some mileage, and the mileage won't necessarily be good for a team that is played 3, lost 3.
Absolutely, David. And I respect what you say greatly, and I think you've got a very good level of diplomacy about you. That's why you're in those roles, because a man of your stature needed in roles where you make those decisions. I mean, I don't want you to harp on our players that you had relationships with. I mean, Kevin Peterson always comes to mind, but how did you handle people in general that you saw were emotive captains? They may have been very good players, but were emotive captains who may be potentially able to slip like that or to show their worth. How did you approach them? Did you give them like a mentorship and telling them how to handle it, or did you let them go and hope they found it themselves?
I was in I had to play my situation slightly differently, Norman, because I was not good enough to play for England. So therefore, captaincy is I was a county captain for quite a long time. And I really realised that you had to separate the role of captaincy from the role as you as a player, and you have to be able to look people in the eye, and it's difficult when you're saying you're not going to play, and they're looking at you saying, actually, you're actually not doing your job either as a player, and how does that sit? So they are 2 separate functions. I would have to say I've been very fortunate to work with, if I go through the list, starting with Michael Atherton, replaced by Alex Stewart, replaced by Nasser Hussain, ending up with Michael Vaughan. Michael Vaughan was without doubt the best man manager of all that group. And it does help when you win. That is there's no substitute for winning. But he was very good in including younger players and making it inclusive as a whole group. So they stuck together as a group. Other captaincies, Michael Vaughan, without doubt, Mike Atherton was the bravest captain I've seen. Well, one of the bravest cricketers I've ever witnessed, because he had a serious back condition for a long period of time of his career. And he had to take some pretty heavy medication to control it, and played in pain that I don't think his teammates realised. And he viewed his back injury in an entirely different way the moment he wasn't captain, because he played a bit as after the end of his captaincy. Because if he was captain, he could manage his own role within the team. when he wasn't captain, he had to, whoever took over, he had to tell him, look, this is the situation with my back and whatever. And Nasser saying, Alex Stewart was, comes from a big club, really talented cricketer. I think it's really difficult to be a frontline batsman, wicketkeeper, and captain all at the same time without it affecting some elements of your game. And some have mastered it. Dhoni did a fantastic job of doing it. But I think that and Nasser Hussain was a very emotional. He's a bit like David Warner. He was an emotional leader, tactically fantastically astute, taught by Keith Fletcher and Graham Gooch at Essex. So he knew tactically all the angles that were needed. So they all had different attributes. But the managing of separating your role as a player and the role of captaincy can be sometimes very challenging for an individual. Because it tends to be that actually when you're awarded a captaincy in any environment, your playing performances go up in terms of performance because you're inspired by the act of the role of actually being captain. Then there comes a bit of a dip when, particularly if it happens with England in years gone by, that actually the team starts to lose. And then the effect of having to be wheeled in front of press conferences all the time does actually sort of begin to wear on the player himself. Because there's a limit to how many excuses you can find on them for playing without trying to single out individuals, which I've hopefully in whatever I said either as a county captain or being a selector is not to publicly criticise single individuals because that doesn't help at all. So,
well, I mean, if you look at the captaincies currently of both Joe Root and Owen Morgan, in particular Owen Morgan, he comes out very positively in each and every press conference. He's very quick to say the other side were better than us, and that is a very
I think they're very good. I think they're old-fashioned captains. I think that they are the people who control the dressing room. They have a coaching staff that they all work together really well. But I think both of them, in the period of time of the series against India, realised that they were up against a really good opposition and didn't go for any cheap shots or whatever. They were quick to praise the opposition. The debate about the wickets, Joe Root never, ever said that they were impossible to play on. He said they were challenging, which is fine. A green seamer at Lord's is challenging. So I think that they were a great credit to themselves and to the country in the way that they spoke publicly.
Having spoken about Lords,
and that's a hallmark of a great captain. Means Joe Root has never ever mentioned that. I stressed what David just said. He always stressed that it was a challenging wicket rather than criticizing the wickets in the recently concluded series against India. So that's the hallmark.
I would have to say to basis actually the most international captains don't go for cheap shots. Whether it be Graham Smith, whether it be Fleming, New Zealand, Kane Williamson, I think is a great ambassador for New Zealand.
Absolutely, David. Absolutely.
And the Indian, I haven't heard a captain, and all you're doing is digging a really big hole for yourself. If you go for cheap shots and blaming players publicly, you might have a word with them, or they might blame their bowling attack or the batting lineup as a group. That's fine because that's that's a bigger group to deal with. So to answer your question, on the guys that I've worked with have been really good. They were different in the way that they approached things. But of all the good bits, bad bits, probably Michael Vaughan was the best. But again, he had a really good team and that had a certain amount of success, particularly in 2005. But there weren't quite a number of series before that. And interestingly enough, after that, the next summer series was against Rahul Dravid's India, which India won. So it's not always a honeymoon.
That's true.
I covered that series.
Did you?
India won that test match in Nottingham, if I'm not wrong. Fenbridge. where
Did
Sachin
they
scored
not
100.
win? Did they not win the Oval one or not?
No, I think the one you are talking about is the series that India won against England in. I don't remember the year. Uh,
It's 2000.
they
I'll
won-
tell you what a year it is. The basis is 2006.
yeah, that they won at
Between
Trent.
winning, beating
They
Australia in
won.
2005, and then
Yeah,
coming to
because
Australia after that.
following that series they lost 4-0. They were whitewashed. I think the series that we are talking about, but the one that India lost 4-0 was that jelly bean one, where Matt Pryor was throwing jelly beans and Zair Khan. India had a great start the first session. You know that story, Norman? The jelly beans?
No, no, tell me about that. Jelly beans.
Yeah,
Explain
They
I
that to
left.
me.
think
What do you mean?
They left
I
them
think
on. They left them on
I
the
must say, if
creek.
someone threw jelly beans at me, I'd be happy.
yeah, because I think there was some case the first day of the Lord's Test match, and I think Matt Pryor was there was something about jelly beans which Jair Khan he spoke about in the post days play, and but then as was the case, India lost that series miserably, losing 4-0. And on that same year, India lost to Australia as well 4-0. Mahendra Singh Dhoni was the captain on both the series losses, but then he could maintain his post as a captain because of one gentleman who was the board president then, N. Srinivasan, who was very close to MS Dhoni. So that was the reason that he could keep his captaincy post. But else I doubt whether he would have been the captain for India.
The jelly beans things, Norman, was the ever ongoing debate about what makes the ball shine, and in terms of things that have sugar on it and things like that. So I thought it was actually quite a funny thing. Actually, they put the jelly beans on, and when people were coming out to have a bath. But the tour that I was mentioning, actually, to basis is actually Rahul Dravid was captain, and India won 1-0.
And that win was in Trent if I remember
Yeah,
very
fine.
rightly.
But if you speak to Rahul, that's his great highlight, is actually to have been captain in England when they won 1-0. Not the which it for me is the best video that I've ever seen, is the test match when him and VVS batted the whole day against Shane Warne, when Harbhajan Singh got a shed load of wickets. Because Peter Willey was one of the umpires, the England umpire, and I think that India had to follow on, and I think at the end of it must have been the second day, there was only Laxman and Dravid, and then the keeper and the bowlers, and he was thinking, well, the new ball was due at the beginning of the third day. That's fine. The game will be over. And as it happened, the two of them batted unbelievably. And the shots that Laxman played with Shane Warne bowling round the wicket into the rough, and he kept hitting it straight over mid-wicket. Well, you've got to have wrists like steel to be able to play shots like that. So, but it was an extraordinary.
I'm not sure if it's been already covered, but let's have a look at it. Tabascus, could you read it out?
Yeah, if you are talking about that series, Norman, you absolutely have to talk about the Ian Bell incident with Dhoni and the spirit of game debate. Please have a quick look at the video if you haven't.
And he followed up with this. He just wanted to make sure I asked you too about it.
Yeah, Norman. Yeah, that was a great gesture from MS Dhoni. Obviously, Ian Bell, as we all know, that before the tea break he was given out, but Dhoni, after he went into the dressing room, he realized that he wasn't out, so he called back Ian Bell immediately after the tea break, and that was a great gesture. The incident happened at Trent Bridge in Nottingham. So I think that Dhoni has been a great ambassador for Indian cricket. It means without a doubt. Means the way he took Indian cricket forward means had totally brilliant.
There are very, very few people who would have done that. So that's to his enormous credit that he can do that sort of thing. I think that series he also took his pads off and had a bowl, didn't he? At one stage.
Yes,
I
yes,
remember that.
yes.
But I mean, that's what I love about captaincy. Some of the best captains, if not all of the best captains in the world, have had moments of humility, moments of decency, respect for the opposition. And when you haven't got that, admittedly, it might have an edge to your captaincy. Like Ian Chappell was a great captain, but he was probably a bit hard on opposition teams. You need to have a bit of balance, and you look at the current crop, or the Williamsons, or even see Fleming, Graham Smith. They were pretty much wanting to win at all costs, but they had respect for their opposition. I'll never forget the day that Graham Smith went in the bat with a broken hand against Mitchell Johnson on the SCG. He gained enormous respect. And that's what I was saying about Dave Warner. He's losing all my respect time and time again, from the sandpaper incident to what's happened today. He shouldn't be captain of the team. I'm sorry.
Well, he can certainly, people make mistakes, Norman. The way that he could change it is to come out publicly and say, actually, my initial reaction or the way I presented the information was not a credit to the team, so for which you can apologise, particularly for the players that are affected. And once you do that, then that's the end of the story, then, isn't it? So,
that's right. I agree with you. So we need to.
But I would like to say add on to the fact that instead of saying sorry to media, he should say sorry to the teammates. Means who have
teammates.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to be sorry about to the media.
No.
The media.
Basically, I was saying he reports to the media that I have spoken to the players, apologised for the emphasis in what I was saying, so the media know that they can report on it. No, it's not apologising to them. So it's just a matter of making it known in the public domain that he's actually addressed the issue within his own team if he thinks it's a serious issue. So.
Absolutely. I'm sorry to harp on that, but it did embarrass me a little bit, being an Australian, to have someone do that after what he's gone through. If I had done like the sandpaper game, I'd been responsible and been banned for whatever amount of time, and then brought back in and being allowed to come back in, my P's and Q's would be perfect. I wouldn't allow any opportunity to bring myself down again, because you've already ruined what you've done somewhat, and then give another chance. David, what do you think of Stephen Smith being made captain of Australia again? And there's been discussion in the media about him making a pledge to be captain. What do you think of that? Because at the moment, Justin Langer, as coach, said we don't need him to be captain. We've got Tim Payne, thank you very much. The fact that Steve Smith went out publicly and in the papers was interviewed saying, I'm ready to be captain again.
Well, if he feels he's still got the ambition to do it, that's fair enough. But I think people should not. And I know that in the series against India, there was a few incidents in the games, which was a shame, because I think the series itself was again a great credit for both teams. But Tim Payne has done a fantastic job in restoring the integrity around the Australian team, and that shouldn't be forgotten. However, it's the same scenario, Norman, of separating the role of captain and the role of a player. But I'm sure who is the chairman selectors for the Australians at present?
Who's the captain?
Who's the chairman of the selection committee?
Okay, the chairman of selectors you're talking about is Trevor Holmes, as far as I'm aware. He's still there.
Trevor's still there. Trevor was there when I was there.
He's left and come back.
He needs a gold medal for perseverance.
I know. You know what? I think they begged him to come back because they were having a lot of issues with the selection process in terms of who would be the chairman of selectors. And Trevor Holmes was actually probably begged to come back in.
He is a top bloke, Trevor Holmes. Really good guy.
And hence why he's back in there. He's not unlike you, David. He has a very calming level head about him, and he will talk to anyone. He's very engaging. I have the utmost respect for a man like that, or for an Adam Gilchrist that will talk to you in a lift even if he doesn't know you. These people have a great deal of respect for human beings, not just the people in their roles. So I think he's the right person. The chairman of Cricket Australia's head is also a particularly good man. I've just forgotten his name offhand. He was part of he's English actually. What's his name? Bastard. The name of who's been acting in the role for the Cricket Australia. He was in charge of the World Cup, and he's moved across. Oh my God!
Are you talking about the CEO?
Yes.
CEO?
CEO, I should say. The role that.
What's his name?
Anyway, he's brilliant. I've spoken on a number of occasions outside the ground recently, and he's a lovely bloke. Very, very engaging. He's been acting in the role. He's doing a fantastic job. He's English, and he did a great job with the ICC World Cups. What's his name? Anyway, I'll come to him.
Not Sutherland. Not Sutherland. He was the guy who's been doing it for
No, not Sutherland.
Not Sutherland. Not Sutherland.
Talking about at this moment in time, if I Google it, he's such an unassuming character. Hence why you forget his name. He's not very much one to blow his own trumpet, which I like about him. He's been brilliant. Let me have a look. It's not Kevin Roberts, that's for sure. He's certainly not. He's on the nose. I'm just trying to find Nick Hockley. Nick Hockley. He's a very engaging guy. Kevin Roberts didn't last very long. He was ousted. There was a lot of dissension with him. But Nick Hockley's been acting for the period of summer, and I think he's still acting now. He and Alex Brown, he's the media manager. They're pretty good. Nick Hockley seems to have a very engaging response. He's English as well. There you go, David. There's a role I love you to come to Australia and be our chairman of selectors, or more so our CEO. Are you interested?
Yeah, I think you got Trevor's really good at what he does. I think, am I right in saying that actually he did stand down, and that he was replaced by really capable people, but people who were working in the media at the same time?
Yes, correct.
I think that slightly backfired in terms of, public statements or whatever. And
absolutely.
And that in itself is a real minefield in terms of who speaks to the press, and I've had my fingers burnt from time to time doing that, if only just to steer the media really in terms of the issues that are relevant in terms of. Otherwise, some of the people I don't know whether that's the same in India and Australia, is the people who are the leading writers don't necessarily watch a lot of domestic cricket. So therefore, they're not quite sure of who the next candidate should be. So, if they rang me and said, well, we needed somebody, a particular discipline, I would just say, well, these are the guys that we're looking at, which wouldn't have been Einstein to work out, because they would have been top of the averages. So, but sometimes it can be misconstrued. But I learned very quickly, even as a county captain, is that actually trying to alienate the press is not a good idea. Because you can never explain to everybody who buys a paper that actually what they're saying is wrong. So without trying to bend over backwards, you're better off trying to give them some sort of general steer in terms of what happens with the team. Which actually, if they did their research, they could work it out themselves. It's not, as I say, it's not Einstein. So.
No, absolutely. It's great to hear what you're saying, David, because it's refreshing, because I think we need to be able to understand what takes place and how difficult it is for all and sundry, whether it's the selector, the chairman of the board, the captains. They've got pressures on them, I've got no doubt. But you have to put a lid on it when it comes to the public domain. You have to step away from that discussion and be diplomacy.
Well, I think some of the people they've talked about in terms of national captains, the gesture that Dhoni did in terms of Ian Bell, they're all, they have a lot of pressure on you. I only did it at county level or state level or provincial level. To do it when you're representing your country, that is pressure, and I think they do a remarkable job. In terms of, you might lose series, test matches, and some. Well, I knew the consequences of being chairman selectors, losing, even having won in 2005. then to go to Australia and lose 5-0. I knew what the consequences would be then, and that was definitely looking for a different role. But one thing I think in sport, eventually the axe will fall at some stage. So I think you've just got to try and do the best job you can in the time that's given to you.
Absolutely. And Debasis, I want your take on this as well. The Australian captaincy, I know I'm harping on it. Marnus Labuschagne's been touted as a potential captain, but he's never captained at any level of cricket. Would you select someone to be captain if they've never been a captain before in any format? Do they need to have had experience at captaincy?
When you're leading your country, you need that bit of experience, a little bit of experience. I, for one, I don't know. I mean, David might be having a different views altogether, but I think if you are leading your country, you need to have a little bit of experience. Means maybe your domestic cricket or whatever cricket or I think all of a sudden you cannot just make a person a captain who hasn't gotten any experience, because you have some experienced cricketers in your side who you have to, and it's all about management. As far as captaincy is concerned, I think it's all about man management, because these days you don't, how you handle the players, how you manage the players is very important.
It is. It's very difficult because invariably, if you are a really talented player, you tend to play at a much higher level than your own peer group. So you tend not to really have the opportunity to captain. And I think certainly, sort of in the area that I work in and below, that we ought to devote more time to captaincy or leadership in general more than anything else. That people, to teach them how to lead people or give them some experiences, because invariably the modern day captain wouldn't have had that much experience. So that's why probably behind the scenes you might have heard the terminology of sides having management groups. So there's a coach, the captain, senior players. And I think there is quite rightly the tendency to include some of the younger guys so that they can begin to understand the issues that are involved. But and also because the amount of international cricket you're playing, and I'm saying in England, it would be very difficult for a leading player to be a captain of a county team because he's never there half the time. So, for instance, Joe Root is now playing for Yorkshire, which is great for Yorkshire. He's got 100 today, but there's no question of him being captain of the Yorkshire team. I'm sure the captain will go and speak to Joe and they'll talk about it amongst themselves about what to do. So, the actual, I only can refer to England, but it seems to be the case around the world that the amount of international cricket means that you're not playing that much domestic cricket. So how can you be captain?
So taking a thought with Labuschagne, if he's never captained any side at any level, would you be then saying, no, he's not going to captain his country? Or would you think, I can see leadership capabilities in him, I want to give him a go? Which way would you go?
Well, I know, for instance, that when he came and played in Glamorgan a couple of seasons ago, he was really, really popular. And to his credit, even though when he got selected for Australia, remember, as a concussion replacement, and it's gone from strength to strength, he was always going to come back to Glamorgan. Such was his loyalty, which is a really, really good thing. In the appointments of the captains, you've always got to weigh up, will it be a burden and therefore affect the way that they play as a player? Because it's the weight of making decisions about whether people play or not can be a real burden. Everybody's a human being, so how you deal with the media, is that gonna be difficult for you to do? So I wouldn't say never, Norman, but I think it's obviously if you've never captained before. But he might have captained at under 19 level or school.
He hasn't.
But I would like to have a say here. Means does he? If you make some XYZ the captain who has never captained what to say, domestic cricket or whatever, all of a sudden you are made the captain of a national team. does he invite the same respect from senior cricketers or experienced cricketers in the side?
I think there have been decisions debated in the past that there are standout leaders. Talking to people in South Africa, Graham Smith was a leader. Even though he was only 22, 23, you would have never said he's 22, 20 when he started to speak.
No.
And you've got to have amazing confidence in your own ability, and dare I say it, you need to be pretty thick-skinned as well, because people will turn around and say, "What do you know about it?" Because you've never captained before. And he was an outstanding leader, and he's doing a fantastic job now as director of cricket. So,
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. When anyone I've dealt with, that's the element of a tall poppy syndrome, whether it's a young kid being made captain, like even Michael Clark, the ability to handle the criticism, be thick-skinned, and people being sarcastic and saying, "What do you know? You've never captained. How am I to listen to you?" Being able to stand up and take that on the shoulders and keep moving forward is where a good leader actually comes to the fore, because they actually show their wares of dealing all of the noise around them and being able to stick to their guns and look forward and have passion and leadership. I think, look, I don't know that I'm just bringing Labuschagne up generally because I think you have to be able to have a captaincy experience before you reach that level, and I think you just can't walk. And I think you would want to. And if you're a natural leader as a cricketer, if I saw a player who was a natural leader, he would have been captain under 12s or the under 19 or whatever level side. He would have already been captain. He was a leader. Don't you agree? You don't become a leader. You're a leader naturally, I think, to an extent.
Yeah, but in that age group, the coaches, the younger you are, the coaches actually run the team. You might be captain in name, but that you certainly, as a 12-year-old, wouldn't be the person selecting the team and dropping people. So but if you look at the Australian captains, they were, Mark Taylor was an extraordinary captain. And then to hand it on to Steve Waugh, and Steve Waugh to hand it on to Ricky Ponting. When Ricky was captain, that's a lot of pressure on him, because the team was not changing. Well, it was changing in personnel, not necessarily getting any weaker. So, it's. I think when the game is as big as it is in the subcontinent and Australia, then being the person who is the number one person is an extraordinary pressure to deal with. But I can only imagine that. So
it was always interesting to watch the Chappell brothers go about their business. Ian Chappell was an exceptional captain. I thought he was a great captain. He was a very good leader. He wouldn't expect them to do something unless he did himself. He had his moments, but he was a great captain. But his brother Greg, despite being certainly an amazing player, was nowhere near as good a captain as his brother Ian. And that made it difficult for Greg because he was always probably feeling a little bit under the cloud of his brother, even though he became a great player on his own right. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think when you've got Lily and Thompson in your peak, Norman, you can do quite a lot of things, actually.
Although the underarm decision was a bit of a horrible one, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, there's things that will live you for the whole of your life, and that's one of them. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, I think going back to the original subject that we were talking about was, I hope that whatever the reaction and in terms of whatever happened at the toss, that David Warner is advised by people and wise people around him. You can nip this in the bud by first, and I'm sure he will speak to the players that it affects and say that was probably not the right way to present it, and then it stops the speculation. Huh?
Absolutely. And I'm sure Trevor Bayliss and Tom Moody, who were responsible there, and VVS Laxman would have had that word.
Yeah. So, let's see what they say in over the next 24 hours. Norman, I'm going to have to make a bid. I just thought I'd
thanks, David.
I might also have to leave, Norman.
My pleasure, guys.
Hopefully I can pop in tomorrow, if that's okay.
Thank you. No problem at all. Thank you both, guys.
But now we're going to have 2 matches to talk about tomorrow, so that'll be nice.
Oh, my God. And David, get your piano skills up because I'm expecting a rendition of "Candle in the Wind."
As long as you don't ask me to sing, that'll be fine. See you later, chaps.
Oh God, thank you, David.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Tabashis, if you wish to go, you can go as well. You've been a gentleman and a scholar. But wasn't it great that David came on? And
Fantastic, and this whole discussion about captaincy and Warner, it was just fascinating to hear David speak.
But I think he was being very diplomatic with what he was saying about David Warner, wasn't he?
Yeah,
He was defending him somewhat, but I think we need to be fully open with what he did. And I hope David's words would have been perfect. We just told him, hey, just go out in the public and apologise both to the individual cricketers and generally and get it nipped in the bud. And the question is, has he done that? Is there any evidence that you're seeing in the press? I'm curious about that.
absolutely.
I think it's an extra time special to bring this up as a video.
We'll try.
I would replay that little segment, I reckon. Really, I think it's I'm still not accepting it. I'm sorry. I'm not.
I think Norman, the good thing is that you need to talk to the fans today, because you normally interact with the fans, how they react with David Warner's attitude, his behavior. I think it would be a good piece. I think today's topic for you would be to interact with the Aussie fans, how they react, how they regard David Warner, and especially with the attitude that he showed yesterday.
Absolutely. I think you're on point. You're on point. I'm going to be out on the streets. I'm going to be out on the streets of Coogee asking, what on earth do you think of what Dave Warner said? After all he's gone through and the thing that he actually said, I need to get that. If you could help me get that little video, I won't physically put on my video thing, but I'd like to be able to show people, if they haven't seen it, what was said.
You can easily get it on Twitter, Norman. If you go to IPL official Twitter handle, you can actually watch that, because they every time they upload the toss video, so you can actually go and have a look.
I wonder if it's still there.
Definitely, it would be there.
So I'm doing IPL. I'm searching Twitter as we speak. I'm doing it for the sake of our fans too, because I want you guys out there to also comment on this. I want you to make comment. I want you to be involved here. I want you to take part of this. I want your opinion. Everybody that's with me now, I want you to tell me what you think of such an act. We want to nip this in the bud immediately, get our thoughts out there and hit this on the head. So I'll be looking at IPL Twitter for sure and getting that discussion happening, because I think that's something that I want sorted. I think it's important for the sake of SRH and also the IPL that we sort this out, because I don't think we can afford to let it linger. And I hope they deal with it pretty quickly.
Okay, Norman,
you want to go? You want to go?
If you can excuse me, because
of course, it's almost you go. I'm going to talk a bit longer, but I appreciate your time. It's been wonderful, Dave. Guys, make sure you thank Tabashis in the subject lines and the messages, because it's been great having him on every single time, and having David Gravity was extra special as well. Thanks, Tabashis. You're going to have a great.
Thank you, Norman. Thank you, Norman.
All the best.
Thank you.
So I'm going to answer some of your questions. Mumbai, again, adjusting better than most of the teams. Correct, Pratik. I certainly would agree with you. Chris Vernon will be back tomorrow. So pretty. And David might be here as well. We've got a double header. Massive day. I just feel David might just have found it hard to name fully the four Indian players' names that are relatively new. I accept that. Then all he has to do is get the piece of paper in front of his eyes and read it. I don't think he has to have to memorize it that perfectly. If he forgets the spelling or pronouncing it, just get a bit of paper at the team sheet, which he would have in his hands, and just say it and apologise for making a mistake. No one's going to think bad about it. I always have problems. I have a number of people that come on our platform, senior journalists that have Indian names, which I may be not perfect in pronouncing, but I'll give it a go. I'll apologise if I make a mistake. We're all human, so I think that's certainly the case. it might have been instilled as a what happened with Warner, it might have instilled a discouraging feeling with the youngsters who are looking forward to play. I agree. If I'm playing for my side and I'm young or any age and no one can remember my name, playing in the team with them on such a big platform, oh boy. And the Barca is a big accent from the perspective. We've got a lot more journalists I'm going to bring on as well, by the way, Scott. That's another part. It might have installed, we've already talked about that. It used to be playing 1K fast pitch, now adjusted best to cello, slow pitches, best team for a reason. You're right. The ability to be able to actually play on all wickets and be prepared for that is amazing. All right, guys, I'm going to be out in the streets of Sydney talking tomorrow or today about the whole Dave Warner. So I think it's a very good one to talk about, and we'll applaud that. We'll talk more about it. So thanks for your time, guys. I think I'm needing to get some sleep. I appreciate we've been on for an hour and 25 minutes today, and I thank you all for your time. Our numbers probably need to be a bit more. The time frame is probably not the best, but I think we can watch this video on replay if need be in the morning, which is also a great thing to do. So everyone, I want you to be able to appreciate the time that David, Gravity, and DeBastis have given us at such a late hour, and I'm very appreciative of you listening to the conversation as well at this ungodly hour that we're facing. Thank you, Barrett R. Thank you, Ismooks, Pratik Garb, the whole lot of you. My time is your time. So this is Norman Kochnick with Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick at Norm Koch. Please interact with me there too at Norm Koch, and we'll talk more very soon. All the best. Norman Kochnick saying goodbye.